Zero apologies.
Droppin Truths.
This is Kyle Cronk.
And I'm Dr. Sarah Lloyd.
We are here to bring you compelling topics on social justice and anti-racism work in our local community with YMCA leaders.
We're so excited you're joining us. We hope you learn together and you get to grapple with the truths we drop.
So it's time to do the work. Buckle up. 2021.
Yes!
Zero apologies.
Droppin Truths.
Hey, we're in the house. We're back. Feels like we're back to some new thing. I can't wait till you pick that up and start strumming.
Why are you ruining it for the viewers? Now it's not even going to be a surprise.
Oh, it feels good.
It's rude.
It feels good to be back.
Welcome back.
I know. It's good. Why are we here? What's our deal? Why are we sitting down by some guitars at Cabin Light Studios?
Well, there's more than 6 feet here.
Feel good about that.
COVID is going like this, which is dope.
Right.
COVID is not here at 0 yet, so we're still 6 feet, but we're no longer in the peak. So we were like, kick it with our friends at Cabin Light in person. Hell yes.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing.
Love your shirt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You should try it sometime, believing in black people.
I do believe
I'm
black
just
people.
joking. But, I mean, it's a real thing.
It is. We can even talk. That might be a decent topic.
Okay, let's
talk about believing black people and the lived experience that black people have.
Let's do it.
Because I think that is a decent topic.
Okay.
So I think one of the things that I was thinking about as we were getting back into
I like how it's decent. Like it's like an all right topic.
Well, do you have another one? No, a lot of shade.
I have all the shade.
Okay.
We haven't done this for like 2 months.
Right.
So I'm like, I got all the zingers.
Yeah, all right. I didn't know we were doing the Zinger show. Maybe that's what
I'm doing the Zinger show.
Maybe that's what we ought to title it.
Don't get crazy with it.
So one of the things that the whole purpose behind Zero Apologies, Droppin Truths is to help people understand how we talk about social justice issues, race equity issues, and not from a place of comfort, but a place of honesty, humanity, depth. That it really takes work. That it's something that you have to sit with in some cases, and maybe not in others, but in some cases you got to sit with things, and there's going to be some uncomfortableness. And one of the things about believing black people or believing black and brown people with different lived experiences than you as a white person is part of that internal work. And one of the things that I'd written down earlier this week was, what is some of that internal work that we do or that needs to happen? And that was one of them, is like, how do you listen to that? How do you hear it? How do you internalize it and not try to change it?
Sure. And so 2 things. Number 1, I was like, I hope that's not a question for me because I don't know.
No.
I don't know what the work is to like start believing black people because I always just have like a 40-year expert in that. So get it. Happy birthday, boo. Also, I think foundationally, something I'm curious about is like, are you ever in situations where you say something that you know to be true and then people are like, doesn't seem right? Like, how often does that happen for you?
Yeah, not.
Like, it never happens?
Well, I don't know about never, but I'm not recalling times when that is happening.
I thought you might say that.
But
and my brain is exploding right now because it's a constant. And you and I have had this conversation before where it's like, believe black women or whatever, and you're like, what's the alternative? Because it doesn't seem like there's an other option than to believe people. And when I walk through my experience, I am always ready to justify from like the sky is blue all the way to like you're walking in white supremacy in a way that's harming me, and understanding and knowing that both it's perfectly acceptable and actually expected for people to dispute everything that I say out of my mouth. And so then there are strategies I have to do in order to move through the world depending on how much energy I have. Some days I'm fucking ready. So I'm like, I wish you would. Other days I'm like, I hope they don't, because I don't have it. And so there's a whole list of strategies that I like don't even necessarily think about employing, that I have to employ on a regular basis in order to move forward the work that actually centers everyone, not just me.
You've touched on multiple things that we can continue to I guess go down different paths. I mean, the harm that's caused to Black people because people don't believe in them or believe their lived experience that is different than theirs, and then talking about unconscious bias, talking about just all of those different paths and the energy that it takes and what Black and brown people have to do to navigate the white supremacist culture that we're in. And that's part of the reason that we're doing this show is to get people in tune with that, because that's how things are going to change moving forward.
Right. And that it doesn't necessarily move forward the mission for white people to understand there's not Blackness in their life when they do an audit of Blackness, and then they're like, I should go get a Black friend. So then they reach out to someone Black and they're like, I have so many things I want to learn. Like, that's not moving forward anything but harm. And so it really is about, like, what are you not listening to and paying attention to? What resources exist for you to start paying attention? And then what does it look like for you to move through this work with safety of Black and brown people at the center?
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing that and you're centering whiteness, which most DEI efforts do anyway, pulling all the punches, like,
yeah, no kidding.
That it doesn't actually move us towards liberation. It just moves towards, like, you feeling great about the contributions you made today.
Right. That was the other thing that you made me think about was, how do organizations go down the path of centering Black and brown experiences rather than white experiences? And that, I mean, we've been trying to do that at the Y in different ways, and sometimes we're more successful and sometimes we're not very successful at all, actually. So those are all great, excellent topics. And one of the things that we've done, you and I have done before, is talk about learning in community, and there's some interpersonal work that has to happen. But I think the framing for me is back to centering of Black and brown experiences that are different than my own. That there is a vast gap of my experience walking through the world and somebody like you walk into the world. And my job is using some of my privilege, or as much of privilege that I've got, to be able to center that and refocus that. And the system keeps making it go the other way. I mean, consistently, because the system's trying to maintain itself.
Right. And part of the challenge is, like, so I've had this conversation recently with a few people that, like, when Black and brown people talk about the system, they're talking about a widespread impact that is multi-layered and woven throughout society in a way that says, like, no matter which way you turn, you will confront white supremacy. Most often when white people talk about the system, what it is a cop-out in order to say, like, well, the system is doing this thing. Like, it's not, like, I'm not saying I'm racist. I'm saying, like, the system, when it's this, like, ominous, like, blob being that doesn't exist, so no accountability can exist. So it really is about saying, like, when you're talking about the system, it's about the scope of how deep and intricate it is. It's not about responsibility. The responsibility lies on individuals who perpetuate the system. And there's real accountability to say, like, am I in this moment perpetuating or disrupting white supremacy? And to be able to do that repeatedly throughout the rest of life. Because I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and I was like, how many times have you been in spaces where someone was like, you really don't belong here? And he was like, never. And I'm like, I can't fathom that.
Right.
Because it is everywhere. It's on the fucking wall postings. It's on the words you're saying. It's on the fucking agenda. It's like, why the fuck are you here? And so thinking about, like, when then I'm saying, okay, like, in this environment right now, I'm not feeling welcome. And people are like, well, the system really perpetuates white supremacy. It's like, no, bitch, you made the fucking agenda.
Right.
So, like, how can you be held accountable for that? And that piece doesn't, going back to the discomfort part, discomfort is a given in this work. And if I'm not making you uncomfortable, then I'm not doing a good job. So even shifting that expectation of, like, if I have walked through a system that has centered me inherently, and now we're talking about disrupting that system, then everything I know should be shaken to the fucking core. And if it isn't, then I'm not engaging in this work as a white person who's serious about it.
Right.
So, like, being like, I cannot fucking wait to be uncomfortable because that means I'm doing the fucking work.
I don't even know what to say about that. That is it.
Drop. Roll the credits. I'm just joking.
This would be the time to
right,
pick up the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. I think I think that you're absolutely right. And going into it from a white person's perspective to dismantle, disrupt, make things uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is going to happen, and where if there's going to be some systems change, that's where it's going to be. And yeah, and we've seen that, and I've experienced it in a couple of different situations somewhat recently.
And I think understanding that, like, so for me to sit down with any white person, you included, and I'm a fan of you, any white person, okay? So yes, I mean you too. I am constantly making choices about which things will be more important to move forward than others. Because if I sit here in any relationship and nitpick the fuck out of the white supremacy coming out of your mouth and through your actions, then in addition to doing harm to the relationship, you will stop listening to me. It's the principle of dilution, okay? So the principle of dilution is that when we take in information, we are not taking in the sum of the information. We're not totaling it. We're averaging it. So it's why, for instance, the side effects of medications, right? They'll be like, oh, we're skipping through the meadows. This person no longer has migraines. It's so magical. And then they're like, real quick.
Wait a minute.
Blood clots, death, right? And they list a bunch of shit that you're like, what the fuck?
There's going to be some challenges.
And then they end with like, and itchy feet. And you're like, huh? Because literally what your brain is doing is being like, death, that's level 10. Blood clots, that's about a 9.5. Then you're like, itchy feet, that's a 1. So you took that information from a 10 down to a 5 immediately, and now that medication is not that threatening to you. So you're like, I mean, migraines are kind of a pain in the ass. Where if I was like, I have the perfect migraine medication for you, but you will fucking die, it's just a matter of when, you'd be like, the headache is not that bad. So the same thing is happening when I'm sitting in space with you and I'm like, Kyle, you can't say that. Kyle, you can't do that. Kyle, don't do that. That. All I'm doing is bringing down the power of the statements I have. So what you need to recognize and understand is that it doesn't mean the things I don't address aren't harmful. So I'm sitting in a situation where I'm like, that's not the challenge. That's not the challenge. Don't choose that battle. Don't choose that battle. But each one of those is a fucking shiv in my fucking rib cage, right?
I'm following you.
So as I sit here, I'm like, I know it. When I engage with white people, it's not a matter of if they will harm me, it's when. So I sit down and I'm like, stab, 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 stab. We're good. I'm not bleeding out yet. Oh, that's the one. You just went for my fucking artery and we can't have that. So imagine being in a reality like that.
I try to be thinking about that all the time, especially when I'm with you. That's exactly what I'm talking about and believing in black people. I mean, I think that's why we wanted to talk about it here. I didn't realize how powerful that was going to be, because that's exactly right. Is if we're in this relationship together and, there's other relationships that go on throughout, employment and, in our case, board work and staffing work and stuff like that. And if every time somebody is coming into a situation thinking, wow, I'm not really welcome here. This isn't made for me. Nobody really wants me here. What battles am I going to pick? And then how are we trying to make it so that the person that's coming in, it's made for them? I don't know if you told me that or somebody else told me that. Was it you that told me that the concept of, I made this with you in mind?
No, I think that's like YWCA of Olympia. Shout out to YW.
Yeah, somebody said that, right? I felt like we were in the same space when that was shared. And that was really eye-opening for me. It's like, yes, that's exactly right. I mean, when somebody gives me something and said, hey, I thought of you about this, I mean, that's really connection.
Right. It's the difference between
inclusion.
It's the difference between a gift card on your birthday and like a custom made gift, right?
For sure.
You're like, oh, I stopped. It still has the like fucking gas station sticker on it, and you're like, what? Happy birthday? Or there's
like a corn dog from one of the little deals.
Right. You're like, did you even activate this? Like, I have questions, right? Versus being like, no, there's like collage. It's in the shape of my head.
Right.
Like, you put fucking time and effort into
good.
this. It's dedication.
Go back. Delusion. What was the term that people are going to need to look up? Delusional what?
The principle of dilution.
Principle of delusion. So I think people need to check
Like
that.
dilution.
Yeah.
Dilution.
And centering of black and brown people or believing black people is part of that centering.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, if you are wrestling with believing black people, then I have really bad news for you. You're not centering blackness.
Yeah.
Because inherently, to center something, you have to believe it's worthy of being centered. And so if every time I speak, you're like, I mean, that doesn't seem real, then how on earth are you centering me in how you move forward? You can't. So it's like, we're here at like Math 98 being like, I need you to be a calculus professor. So holy fuck. Like, we have a lot of work to do, but also you can't get over the fact that you're in Math 98 today. You got to do fucking Math 98. Okay. So start with, every time someone black talks, you're like, I believe what you have to say.
Yeah, no, I'm there. And I think I think it's a new concept for most white people is to think like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Centering, for sure.
Because there's no accountability structure that exists that holds whiteness accountable to believing blackness, because inherently blackness is all of the bad things and none of the good. Mm-hmm. So why would you believe in that? That's like the villain of a kid's movie. You're not going to be like, oh, I hope Ursula wins. No, you're going to be like, a bitch needs to go down. Yeah. So it's the same thing. Like, blackness is Ursula. You get to be Ariel, or maybe Eric. I'm not sure. We don't know who Sebastian is, probably Peter. But like, moving forward, it's like,
unbelievable.
You're welcome.
How good are you?
I'm so good.
Wow.
But like, so it starts with being like,
get like all of the fandom right there.
I know.
That was something.
If you like Disney, love us. No, but literally, it's like, if you won't believe us, then what the fuck are we doing here?
It was like a rabbit trail.
It was. Mm-hmm.
Disney.
Yeah.
You could be on the Disney cruise. Like, you could just...
Oh my God, I could be on the Disney cruise. I love cruising.
Oh my gosh.
And,
crazy.
I mean,
not much cruising right now during COVID.
You aren't going on cruises during COVID?
No. Oh. No, that was a bad thing.
I think it'd be cool to like pay for an 8-day cruise, but actually go on like a 150-day cruise. Ooh. I think that'd be fun. It's a gift of purchase.
Are people still on some boats out there?
For sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's not good. Mm-hmm. So, welcome back. Zero apologies.
Droppin Truths.
You were dropping some serious truths today.
I mean, that's how we do it.
And it started with believing in black people.
Believe black people.
Anything else that you want to talk about in this particular episode?
You always end things so awkward.
You're like, we don't have to end?
How's your aunt doing? How's your aunt doing?
Let's talk about my shirt. We don't have to end? What do you want? What else do you want to talk about?
No, we're good. We're totally good. Speaking of believing black people,
yes.
What's a black-owned business that you love and adore and care about?
Soul on Fire.
Yes.
Man, I love the name of that. I love the logo. I don't know if maybe we can get the logo up on the thing.
Totally.
Because it's a cool little deal. The color combo is good.
Right. It's real good.
And I know the owner.
You
Sarah Lloyd. She is so smart. And, you know, the other thing that... I was waiting. I knew somebody was doing something.
You're like waiting?
It was like, whoa, a little bit of a pause there. She is so insightful, as you can tell from the podcast here, if you're a regular fan, you were very insightful, and your analogies are unreal.
I feel like they're leveling up, though.
Right. If you have more levels, I can't wait to sit with that. Because it is astounding how good you are at that. So, consultant, coach, DEI, equity, based in racial, social justice, equity work. Mm-hmm. You consult to people, you coach people from a leadership perspective, help people understand how to do some of the things that we talk about on the show. Mm-hmm. So, good job. Soul on Fire.
Thank you.
Check it out.
And while we're talking about excellent things that are amazing and we can't live without, let's talk about Cabin Light Studios.
Cabin Light Studios have been a huge part of probably a lot of different things in Olympia, but specifically the South Sound YMCA. They were at our groundbreaking for the Shelton YMCA that just happened on Monday, so that was really cool. Shout out to you guys. That was awesome. They also have done a bunch of stuff for our annual campaign. They may have even videoed you for something recently.
They might have done that.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. They're brown owned, brown operated, and they operate ethically because when they were doing like top secret videos for the opening, they would not let me sneak along so I could see all the behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, wow.
So in addition to being excellent, they have great ethics.
So we could hire them for like security clearance.
Absolutely.
That's good to know.
So
what
brown
is he
owned.
doing? He's over
brown
there like rubbing
operated.
his stomach or something. So strange.
Brown owned, brown operated.
Yes, absolutely.
We're all about building up that black and brown generational wealth. So.
And then before we wrap up, the last little thing is, some learnings that people could do. They could do some interpersonal work around centering black and brown voices. They could do some individual work around unconscious bias.
We can talk about unconscious bias one day, but yes, they can do that. They also can, what I would say is do a blackness audit. Like, where has blackness impacted your life? Not where is it present, because it might not be anywhere.
Right.
But the second you realize how prevalent black culture is in your culture, I think there's an accountability piece that comes from understanding how much of an influence blackness is in your life.
Ooh,
so
I
I think
that.
Do a blackness audit and figure out, like, what are the things I love, value, and appreciate, and where is blackness inside of those?
Oh, that is really good. I like that.
I came to play.
You did. You brought the appropriate level of hot sauce, as I sometimes say.
There you go. And with that, we're out, friends.
Peace.
Bye.
This was Zero Apologies.
Droppin Truths.
White folks, share this with your friends and make sure you're doing the work.
And black folks, welcome home.